Hello and welcome to the channel of Hashaliak. Hope you're all doing well. I want to share with you something that came to me last night. I was in the living room, couldn't sleep in my bed because I'd been there all day. So I eventually fell asleep on the settee and I woke up after about 30 or 40 minutes. And I had a couple of verses going through my head as I was basically sleeping and waking up. They just stuck with me, very clear. And they're from Exodus chapter 23, verses 29 and 30. So let me just read this. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, which would cause the land to become desolate and the wild animals too many for you. I will drive them out from before you gradually until you have grown in number and can take possession of the land. Okay. Now, the context of this is that the Israelites have come out of Egypt, they're journeying on the way through the wilderness to the promised land. And we're being given instructions here of what God is going to do for the Israelites as he takes them into the promised land. And there are always conditions. And this chapter and previous chapters are actually elaborating on the 10 commandments. But God is saying, I'm going to go before you and I'm going to drive out your enemies. But I'm not going to do it in 1 year because then the land would become desolate and the wild animals will be too many for you. Wild animals. I actually looked at that Hebrew word and it just means alive, living, something which is alive, something which is living. I'll come back to that in a bit. But he's going to drive them out gradually until you have grown in number and take possession of the land. So he's not going to do it in 1 year because that would be too quick and the wild beasts would inhabit that vacuum because the Israelites would not be enough in number to occupy the land. So, what I felt God was saying, this great awakening that we've been seeing taking place over the last 3 or 4 years, it's certainly answering a lot of questions for me, which I often asked, why is everything taking so long? And really, when you think about it, it makes sense. People need to wake up to what is going on. Because if we're not fully awake and fully understand what is happening, then the likelihood is we will let it happen all over again. And that is not what we want to see happen. The wild beasts will occupy that vacuum. Well, I would submit it to you that there's been a lot of wild beasts occupying places of power in our governments all around the world for a long, long time. But God tells us here there are obviously so many that it's going to take time. He's not going to do it in 1 year. So now we're what, 3, 4 years into the Great Awakening, and we're certainly much more advanced. So I would hope this would encourage you that God is definitely at work. He's driving out the enemies from before us, but he's doing it over a period of time that allows more and more people to wake up to the reality of what has happened. Now, I'm going to leave that there, and then now I want to just talk about a little, maybe you would call it going down the rabbit hole. Because in the verse just before it in Exodus 23:28, it says, I will send hornets ahead of you to drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and Hittite from before you. Those three specific peoples. Now, in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1 and 2, it says this: Adonai your God is going to bring you into the land you will enter in order to take possession of it, and he will expel many nations ahead of you, the Hittite, the Girgashite, the Amorite, Canaanite, Perizi, Hivite, and Jebusite, 7 nations bigger and stronger than you. When he does this, when Adonai your God hands them over ahead of you and you defeat them, you are to destroy them completely. Do not make any covenant with them. Show them no mercy. Now, I've spoke briefly about this before. Why would God, in those 3 nations in Exodus 23:28 were mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 7, destroy them completely? And there's been a lot of speculation. Why would God say something like that? And I have briefly talked about this, and this is the rabbit hole stuff. The Nephilim are still around, the giants, hybrids, whatever you want to call them. These beings are still around. That's why I mentioned the Hebrew word earlier on for wild beasts. It just says a living, alive beast. Now, is it possible that God is driving out the wild beasts right at this moment, that they are possibly not what we may think? The elites, the leaders. I mean, I know this is going a bit out there, but is it possible that that is what is happening? And that they need to be completely eliminated. Now, I've had visions back in 2021 where I don't know where I was, other than I was traversing and walking through many, many tunnels. I was actually in the vision, and I can't even explain some of the things that I saw. It's like, to me, I saw every single demon, shape and size in hell. Maybe they were hybrid beings. I don't really know what I was seeing. All I know is I was in tunnels and I walked many of them, very dark, and the beings that I saw were, it was like something out of science fiction or horror movie. Anyway, that's just food for thought. Just want to get back to the Great Awakening. There's a Great Awakening happening, and God is waking people up. And in many ways, I believe that the quicker this world wakes up, the quicker things will be far better for us. So, if you're one of those people that are really wide awake, then maybe we should just start pushing the boat out a little bit further and trying to wake up our neighbours. Anyway, thanks for listening. God bless you.